What's up everybody, Emperor John Kill 3D Gaming here with another Mortal Kombat video, and I haven't done one of these in a while. Let's take a look back at one of the games in Mortal Kombat, specifically Mortal Kombat Trilogy, which released back in 1990. All the gameplay footage you're going to see is obviously from the MK collection, because it's one of the most accessible versions to get a hold of outside of either emulating it, having the original, or just any way you can find a way of getting the game itself outside of the collection. But Mortal Kombat Trilogy was the culmination of the original games, Mortal Kombat, Mortal Kombat 2, and Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. And this was a version that was exclusive to the home counterparts. There was no arcade version of this game. It was on the PlayStation, I believe the Sega Dreamcast, and the N64. This is where this game was released. And this game took everything that we knew from the Mortal Kombat trilogy and just fused it into one. This was the original MK9 before MK9, if that makes any sense. MK9 back in, I think it was 2011, 2010, 2011, how that the entire Mortal Kombat trilogy while rebooting the trilogy from the beginning to the end. This one was just the entire trilogy, every character, every hidden character, every boss, every arena, every fatality, every super attack, everything was in this game. Instantly like similar yet different, because every improvement, though MK3 is not favored a lot, like even basic MK3, hell, people like MK Ultimate more, but what MK3 introduced was the fast-paced combat, the aggression bar, and this little speed boost bar to help the flow of combat become paced. Because I know by MK2, people were like, okay, the game has to speed up a bit. And, you know, with this game, especially that it was finally on, at the time, one of the more powerful hardwares at home. I honestly believe, I think the Dreamcast was even stronger than the PlayStation. If I could be right or wrong. I only owned a Dreamcast for a short time, like a real short time, and I don't remember much, but all I had was Soul Calibur and 2 Mortal Kombat games, and I believe Trilogy was one of them, and I also had MK4 Gold. You have every even the hidden characters from the original games that you don't fight, like Smoke, Ermac, Noob Saibot. Hell, the boss characters that you could never play as are in the game. It just felt like one last hurrah before the 3D took over, because this was one of the very few games before the Mortal Kombat series went full 3D. This was one of their last 2D efforts, and you know, it's a great way. This was a great way for the original 2D era games to go out with a bang, was with this game. I believe the most difficult version, though, to master would be the N64, because the N64's controllers weren't really made for fighting games like that, versus the arcade stick, the Dreamcast, and the PlayStation controller at the time. Those were more tailored to games like Street Fighter, Tekken, Mortal Kombat, and so on and so forth. Now, the one thing this game does keep, I don't know if this is a revision of MK Trilogy or a different variation, because the game is balanced than I remember. It still has that Mortal Kombat challenge depending what ladder you choose to go on, and at least in this game you have single combat, 2 versus 2, and you even have 8-player combat. And the good Mortal Kombat Trilogy now in these modern remastered collections, or hell, even emulating it, is that you could play these old games online, and that's where this game is perfect. If they were to practice, because they did practice online arcade games at the time, I feel that this game did really well as one final 2D MK arcade game. But, you know, the fact that we got it at home was the best way for us to, like, okay, is closing out. Let's every character we have at the top, difficulty, every challenge, all fused together, and it's just simply great. Now, in terms of how the game plays, it is very fast-paced compared to MK1, and moves are here. Any attack that you remember pulling off in general and throughout the series, it's here. The blood is cranked up to a you aggression bar, little blue, green adrenaline bar. The green adrenaline bar, you can do it in the middle of a combo or the middle of a brutality to help give you a huge boost and just power bombing your opponent till it reloads again. Then your aggression bar at the bottom constantly fills as the match progresses, so therefore you'll move even faster. Without using the adrenaline bar, you'll move faster. It makes it difficult for your opponent to hit you, and sometimes it'd be kind of hard for you to have control because you're pressing at such a fast speed that you could also wobble all over the place. Now, don't get me wrong, it still has that classic Mortal Kombat BS to where when you do an attack and it should have landed and your opponent somehow got through it, or they somehow just avoided the attack entirely. But you know what? Tropes like that really they really don't take away from the game. It's just the charm of this era of games. Because back then, fighting games were still relatively in their infancy. Not fully, but they were like finally finding their footing. And Mortal Kombat Trilogy found its footing when it came home to the home ports. And if that's one thing arcade games were trying to do back then, was to give you the arcade experience back home, which was very difficult. But MK Trilogy seems to have done that successfully, without any setbacks, without any changes. This was one of the best. It's literally the closest way you had an arcade game basically at home, fully uncompromised, fully on par with what was in the arcades at the time. And it was just shocking how well that they portrayed this game and went into it. And especially if you own the Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection, or if you watch channels like Mortal Kombat Secrets, which I highly recommend. This is how I learned a lot of the back history of Mortal Kombat that I had missed. This game right here was really done with a lot of care, knowing that, okay, we're not putting this in the arcade. The consoles are, relatively still evolving, especially with their 3D graphics, which MK4 later, which I know a lot of people are indifferent to MK4. I personally like MK4. I know how it looks because of the time, but it actually played really well. In fact, I'm just surprised that they didn't put the gold version on here for that game. But we have MK Trilogy that gives you like every babality, hell, animalities. Every attack is done with challenge. Like, sometimes it's difficult to memorize certain moves, and that was the charm of back in the day of learning these moves. Nowadays, especially with the collection, you can have the move, your super moves at least, on the screen to help you memorize the attacks, and that makes it very easily and accessible for anybody who never played the games back in the day or back in their prime. Because I was a small child while Mortal Kombat was in its prime. I didn't start experiencing it till later, when it was transitioning from 2D to 3D. So I didn't get the height of it, but I still appreciated and loved Mortal Kombat. And Trilogy was one of the games that we had in our collection growing up, whether it would have been the N64 port or the PlayStation port or the Dream. I still think there's a Dreamcast port, but I'm not entirely, like, my memory's vague on that because I didn't have, like I said, didn't have a Dreamcast for very long. But Mortal Kombat Trilogy cemented its place as everything that has come before. From the very beginning of Mortal Kombat to all its ups and downs, Mortal Kombat Trilogy stands the test of time as a game that you can just pick up and play. Like my co-host, the Mad Reviewer Kiyoma, when I was streaming this game the other day, he knows a lot more about this game than I do, and he would probably have some stories for you to tell you his memories with it. I'm just going based off what I remember. I used to play these games. All my siblings were in college or going to school, so I didn't really get a chance to play with. I played the games alone until I started having friends of my own come over to play the game. But Mortal Kombat Trilogy really cemented the baseline of how you take everything that you developed throughout the entirety of your series, you know, from the good to the bad, you really showed such care and attention. And I wish a lot of games, like a lot of game developers, such as I know the Mortal Kombat developers are right now are seen as 50-50 with the community due to MK11, MK1, the rumors of an Injustice 3, or the rumors that Mortal Kombat is no longer a thing in terms of video. You know, there's just a lot of things going on right now, a lot of turmoil with the Mortal Kombat brand. But back then, there wasn't this level of turmoil. Maybe at best, the turmoil was just development deadlines or developmental issues, but that was really common back in the day with these kind of games. So the fact that they were able even to make a game like this before they went full 3D showed that these developers loved their franchise. They cared so much about what the player experience was, and they cared about their player base in general. And if you have the Mortal Kombat collection, I recommend going into the crypt section of the game and looking through the different games' history, especially the one on this one, because though there's not a whole lot in the crypt, it explains everything that you need to know about MK Trilogy. It's still a nice nod and listen to what the developers put into this game and how they thought of the player base going forward before they went into 3D. So Mortal Kombat Trilogy will hold a special place in the hearts of all Mortal Kombat fans because it was the last hurrah before we went into that uncharted era of 3D. And this game was a reminder that no matter what area you were from, Mortal Kombat stands the test of time, whether 2D or 3D. So that's been my look back at Mortal Kombat. Be sure to like, subscribe, favorite, and I'll be sure to check you all in the next video. Take care.